Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another tutorial type of video because it seemed like you all really enjoyed the Google Calendar tutorial videos, so I have another Google tutorial for you. This time, I'm going to be talking about Google Keep, which is an application that I have been using for a very long time. I honestly can't remember a time in my life where I wasn't using Google Keep. It has just been so ingrained into my lifestyle for many years, and it's something that I will never stop using. So I figured, why not share that application with you and yeah, give you a quick tutorial on how to use it and why I think it is so fantastic. It's like a crucial, critical, and essential tool for planning in the most simplest sense. So it is very easy and very accessible to use, and I'm going to get right into it. I will say that this tutorial is not going to be on my computer. I'm going to be sharing my phone screen just because I think Google Keep is at its best when you use it from your phone because it's just so accessible in that way. There is a computer application that goes along with it, or a computer version. So yeah, you can use it on your computer as well. If you are interested in seeing it on the computer, like a part 2, let me know in the comments. So I am just about to share my screen on my phone, but before I do that, I should say what Google Keep is. So Google Keep is essentially like a note-taking app. It is very much that at its simplest, but I feel like it has so many different things within that note-taking concept that makes it super useful. It's not just like a checklist, it does a lot more than that. Let me know in the comments if that does not make sense, but long story short, it's a note-taking app. Very simple, and I don't mean it in the sense of like taking notes for school, although I'm sure that you could do that, but I like to look at it more like a grocery list kind of note-taking app. Now let's get on to sharing my screen. Okay, so this is what Google Keep looks like on the phone. Again, I have everything in dark mode, so it's going to look darker than if you were to use it like in regular or light mode. So this is what it looks like. I plopped in some examples so that you can kind of see what it looks like when it's already got some things populated. But of course, if you didn't have anything in there, it will look empty, right? At the very base of this, like I said, it's just a very simple note-taking app, but I'll go through each of the different things that you can do in here. So I'm gonna start at the bottom left. This little checkbox looking thing is quite simply a checklist. You can do something simple like to do, or you can do something like weekend schedule. I'm thinking of these ideas in terms of what I typically add into my Google Keep. Of course, I don't want to share personal information, so that's why I'm doing it from scratch here. But say it's a weekend schedule, you can add a lot of simple things like fix the car, or wash the car, groceries, farmer's market, you know, just things that you're going to be doing during the weekend, right? So very simple. It's just a checklist. However, there are things that you can do to make this checklist a bit more optimized to your liking, which is where it becomes magical to me. So for example, we can hide the checkboxes so that they're no longer there. How do I add them back in? There you go. So you have the option of removing the checkboxes if you want to, or putting them back in. In the same box in the corner, the bottom left corner, you can see you can add images into this. You can also add a drawing or a recording. So you can really make this super immersive if you want this simple checklist to turn into something else. I typically don't use any of these options, but I love that the opportunity is there. You can also change the color of your list. So if you're a big color coding person, this is going to be incredible to you. I'm a big color coding person, so I absolutely love that. You can also add other things to I mean, of course, you can delete it. That's the very first thing there. You can make a copy. So if you have a very structured checklist that you'd like to make a copy of and then start formatting from there, you can do that as well, which, you know, if you start to get more extensive with your checklist making, this becomes very useful. At first, it may not seem useful, but it does eventually. Sending it is also an option, like if you want to send it to someone. I feel like if you're making a joint grocery list with someone, this is super great to send along. Or if you're making like an itinerary, you can send this very simple checklist to people, and there you go, you're able to send it. Collaborator is if you want to add an email address into this list, and so whoever downloads Google Keep onto their phone will have that same exact list that you've created duplicated onto their phone, and they'll have it as well. Whenever they update the list, it'll update on your list, and everything will just be in sync. So you can do that as well. I do that with like tracking the bills or tracking any like house specific information with Ian, and whenever he updates, you know, those kinds of things, or whenever I update it, it shows up on both of our phones. Incredible thing to have, by the way. And then labels. If you want to take color coding and organizing into a whole other level, you can create labels, and then, you know, you can do things like a work label or a personal label, and you can categorize in that way. So this checklist is no longer just a checklist. You can do so many things with just a simple checklist, and that's what I love the most about Google Keep. But it doesn't stop there. You can do more than just checklists in Google Keep. Other examples that I already have pulled up. This is just a simple text. So remember when I removed the checkboxes before, it looked like a regular note? That's essentially what this is. So if you have like one specific thing that you just want to remember and you don't need checkboxes for it, you can do something like this. For example, your account number for a social media profile or something like that. I wouldn't suggest or recommend using this as like a password keeper, just because it all depends on your comfort level when it comes to that, but just as an example. Again, I have other checklists that are here, but I wanted to show you some dynamics when it comes to making checklists. So for example, we have meal prep for the week here. This is a real life example of what I do on my personal Google Keep. But let's say for the week, we're gonna make some pesto penne. We're also going to make some vegan chicken sandwiches, and another recipe. What's a very simple recipe I can think of? Tofu scramble. So I have 3 recipes here. Obviously I would create more for the remaining of the week, but say I wanted to add the ingredients that go to each of these recipes so that I make a mental note of it for the grocery store, or when I'm cooking I can just pull up this list and I'll have all the ingredients here handy. You can create those same things, the ingredients. So let's say penne, pesto sauce. Let's say we add some kind of protein to it. So we'll do like tempeh bacon. You can actually take these items and swipe them to the side, and you will see that they go underneath that specific bullet point that you created. So now it's a bullet point with categories or sub bullet points underneath it, which makes this go to a whole other level of categorization. I use this on a daily, y'all. It is super, super helpful when I'm cooking and I need to go into the kitchen and pull out all of the ingredients and make sure that I don't forget everything because I'm like on a deadline, or you know, it's a weekday and I'm busy. I just pull this out. I have the ingredients listed there and I just go into my fridge and pull everything out and check things off as I go. That's me. That makes me happy and it makes me feel organized and on top of things. So, you know, use it however you feel is best for you, but I think that's incredible to do. Other examples, so I have over here bills. Again, this is another real life example that I do. Let's say we have, you know, the credit card bill, we have the internet bill, and then we have like the gas and electric bill. And then underneath it, you can put how much it costs. So let's say the credit card bill is $500, the internet bill is $100, and the gas and electric bill is $150. So there you go. I just put like how much is due. Sometimes I will put, not sometimes, I always do this. I'll put like the date that it's due. I'm just putting in random dates, y'all, just as an example. But there you go. We put in the dates that they're due. Maybe if you want, you can assign it to someone. Like say you're collaborating with someone and you want to say like, Ian's going to pay the credit card bill this month and I'm going to pay the internet and gas bill that month. I can categorize it in that way. So you can get really creative with the way that you're using this very simple checklist. I can add a collaborator. I can go ahead and add Ian into this so that he has it on his phone. Another thing that I didn't mention before, but you can add reminders. So right over here, I went up to this top right section where there's a bell. You can see it pulls up suggested times where you want to get a reminder for this kind of note. And let's say tomorrow morning I would like to get reminded about this. Me and Ian will both get reminded on it if we are both collaborators, by the way. But yeah, you'll get a reminder. This will send sort of like a text message, a ping, basically like a notification that comes up on your phone. I've talked about this in the other Google tutorials. But yeah, it'll just show up as a ping on your phone and it'll remind you like your bill is due in a couple of days. This reminder is going to help you make sure that you go in and schedule that payment before your card is due. So you don't have to rely on going into each individual credit card account or relying on an email that gets buried in all your other emails. It's just a way of organizing, of course, and I'm just giving some suggestions and examples of what I personally do, but it also shows just how dynamic these simple checklists can become, which is fabulous. Two other things that I want to show in this whole checklist section, the two things that are on the top right. The one farthest to the right is an archive button. So if you click on that, the note is going to get archived and you can always reference it if you go into your settings and you can go into your archive section. So if you want to archive things that are no longer important, but you want to reference it later on, for example, say you go traveling and you made a packing list, but you haven't gone traveling in a few years, so let's archive it, and the next time you go on a trip, you can go back into your archive, unarchive it, and use it again. So that's just another example of how you can use that. The other thing I wanted to show was this thumbtack little button. That is for you to pin this note. So when you go into your notes, you can see that it has now been divided. And the top will have your pinned notes, which, notes that you want to reference all the time, very frequently, or maybe like a way for you to be reminded because it's at the very top. That's another option that you can do there as well. I mean, it started as a very simple checklist, and look how many different things that you can do right there. That is what I love so much about Google Keep. It is so simple, but it's also not. And it does things that you probably think in your head about a checklist that you're like, I wish this checklist could do this. And Google Keep does it. And it does it in such a simple and accessible way. So I'm like the biggest fangirl when it comes to Google Keep. And I've been using it for a really long time. Anyway, so moving on to the other options that you can do, as you can see from the very bottom, there are options for you to draw. So if you wanted to take notes using your hand and stuff like that, you can definitely do that. You can draw using this. The way that I personally use this is, say, I have like some plan in my head to do a house project, but I can't visualize it or I can't show somebody this without drawing it out. So sometimes I'll sit down with Ian and say, I want to plan out, a section of the living room. Sometimes I will go as basic as this, create like a little architectural plan, which is not at all an architectural plan. It's just me like doodling. But it's a really great way to visualize what you want to show someone in a drawing type of way. So, I mean, this is another example on how you can use it, but of course you can use that in any way that is helpful to you. I'm gonna just archive that. By the way, if you wanted to know how I just quickly archive that without clicking into it, you just swipe it to the right and it'll just archive. I think if you swipe to the left, it also archives. And you can also undo that if the action was something that you just did. So many different things that you can do. Moving on to the next option is this little microphone. as you can see, this is just an audio to text note. And there you go. Not only does it turn your audio into physical text, but it will keep the audio where you said the thing, and you have it as like an audio recording, which can be incredibly helpful if you're in a meeting, if you're having an interview with someone, or if you're taking notes in class. This is such a simple app to just quickly open up and hit record, and as opposed to like going into a really immersive and complicated application on your laptop or something like that. So very, very cool. I will say that Google applications and programs are super savvy when it comes to picking up your voice and picking up on the mic. So highly recommend if that is something that is useful to you. And then the last thing that's on this bar at the very bottom is if you want to add images and, add images into this app. I don't want you to see my gallery. It's a mess. So I already made an example here. This is a photo of a section in my living room that I just uploaded using that same option there. You can add something in here. So you can add text. Perhaps this is the topic, the living room. And then the note underneath could be like DIY project wall shelves. And then this can become a whole other thing. You can also draw on this if you want. So I'm just gonna tap onto the photo, click on this little brush that's on the top right, and you can draw all over this. And this is another way where I share project updates in person with Ian, where I will, sketch out my idea onto a photo of, whichever room. He'll be able to visualize it while I'm drawing it out, and then we get to keep the drawing so that we can reference it for later. So I'll give you an example. I am trying to do wall shelves in the living room, and I would like to put some plants onto the wall shelves. So visually, right as we speak, I just drew some wall shelves that are gonna go onto that wall, and then I also drew some fake plants so that you can visualize what it looks like in this room. And this is really something that I am working on. I did get the wall shelves, so now I just need to install them and put the plants onto it. But as you can see, a project in progress, super quick, super easy, all done in like a matter of seconds. So again, another incredible thing. Another thing that you can do in this app, you can hit that plus button and it will simply just take you to a basic, note that you can take. But of course, there are buttons all along the edges of this simple note that you can basically customize and create however you feel you need to create this note. And then you can always hit back, like say you started a note, but you really don't want to make that note anymore. It will just discard, as you can see it from the notification at the bottom. If you have a ton of notes and you need to search through and find something, you can search at the very top and search keywords. You can also search by the type, you can search by the thing, as you can see from the suggestions here. So the search option is very, very smart. I believe that the list, so I typed in meal, and of course the list that had meal in the topic came up. So it's very fast, it's very accessible, and you can search in many different ways. If you want to search by like, oh, I remember it was a checklist, but I don't remember what kind of checklist it was, kind of situation, if that makes sense. That little button on the top right where it says S, if you tap on that, I'm not going to tap on it because it has personal information, you can toggle between email addresses. So if you have more than one email address, if you have a personal one, if you have a work one, you can toggle between those accounts and you can have completely distinct, separate Google Keep accounts with their own sets of notes. This is how I run everything on my phone for my personal and work life, Slow Morning Diaries life. So I have my whole set of lists for my personal life where I have bills, I have random information, I have house information, all of that good stuff. And then for Slow Morning Diaries, I have a whole Google Keep where I have like projects that I'm working on, tasks that I need to finish up, tasks that are still pending, my review, stuff like that. And I keep it super separate, and it's so easy to just toggle between each email account because all I have to do is hit tap, tap, and it's done. I'm such a fangirl. Another thing that you can do, this little bar over here, that allows you to toggle between views. So if you want to see this in list view, you can. Or if you want to see this in little brick views, you can do that as well. All based on your preference, of course. I will just say that, like, you can reorganize the order of your notes. So if you want something at the bottom, you can hold on to it and move it to the bottom. It just is slightly different when you're in different views. So just heads up on that if that is something that's important to you, but you can absolutely move things around. I like to have my things in particular order because I'm annoying, but yeah, I love that I am able to take a note and move it around if I want to move it around at any given point. I think the last thing that I need to cover here is just this sidebar, which is just your general stuff. You have the notes. Reminders are things that have reminders set on them, which if you remember from before, I added a reminder onto here. Also, by the way, you can edit the reminder and you can delete it. But yeah, you can organize by notes, you can organize by reminders, by labels. You can create as many labels as you want and start filtering things through the labels at any given time. We have the archive, which is just like your trash that's not really trash. You can always retrieve it whenever you need it. And then you have the trash, which I believe, yeah, your trash is automatically deleted after 7 days. So just a heads up on that. And that is pretty much it. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Again, like I said, all of this you can also retrieve on the computer. So if you want to use Google Keep on your computer, everything is in sync through your Gmail account. You can pull up Google Keep on your computer as well. If you want to see what that looks like, if you want me to show you what the slight differentiations are, let me know in the comments. I can definitely do a part 2. That's essentially Google Keep in a nutshell. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Like I said, I use Google Keep for so many things. It is so convenient. Oh, and I will also mention that if you have an Android phone, Google Keep has widgets. So on my home screen of my phone, I just have widgets. I have 2 widgets, a Google Keep for my personal and a Google Keep for my work. So again, just another really, really accessible and helpful thing coming from such a seemingly simple app. But that is all for this week's video. I really, really hope it's helpful. Good luck if you end up using Google Keep. Let me know if you do end up using it because that would bring me such joy. I feel like not many people actually know about Google Keep when it's like a hidden gem. It's incredible. So yeah, that's all for this week's video. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you in next week's video.